Hey guys, so in this video I wanted to go quickly over how to factor if our a is 1. So what do I mean by a is 1? If I was given y equals 2x squared plus 4x minus 8, I would have to identify what a, b, and c is. Well, that's coming from our standard form of our quadratic equations of y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So our a is going to be 2 in this case. Our b is going to be 4 in this case. And our c, that's too close, let's do green. And our c, well, in our typical standard form, it's plus c. Well, in this case, there's a negative, so we're going to include that negative when identifying our c. So our a is 2. So we're not talking about these kinds of problems. I'm talking specifically if we had, for example, trinomial a says that we have y equals x squared minus 14x plus 48. So our a is that imaginary 1 right in front of that one, that x squared. So if our a equals 1, that means we can go straight into our big X method. What is our big X method? Well, we do a big X, and we put our b on the left side and our c on the right side. And we've got to figure out two numbers that multiply to get to c, but also add or subtract to get to our b. So what does this look like? Well, in that problem that I wrote down, our y equals x squared minus 14x plus 48. Our a is 1, so that's why we're being able to use our big X method right now. Our b is negative 14, and our c is 48. So in our big X, we'll have negative 14 and 48. So we need two numbers that multiply to get to 48. So we're going to create a table, a t-table. And we're going to take every single factor of 48. So we don't really need to start at a big number. We can start at a very small number. What is the smallest number that can go into 48? 1. What times 1 gives us 48? 48. Now 2. Does 2 go into 48 evenly? Yes. 2 times what gives us 48? 24. And if you don't know these, you can always just start at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so on and so forth, and do 48 divided by 1 gives you 48. 48 divided by 2 gives you 24, so on and so forth. So the next one would be 48 divided by 3 gives you 16. 48 divided by 4 gives you 12, and you could keep going. Even if it doesn't go into our C evenly, you can still have it in the table. Just know it's not going to be the answer that we're looking for. So 48 divided by 5 gives us 9.6. 48 divided by 6 gives us 8. Well, if you keep going, 48 divided by 7 gives us 6.86 rounded. And then if you go to 48 divided by 8, you get 6. Well, that's the same thing that we have here, so we know that we're done. Excuse me. So then we're going to look through this and say, okay, what can we add or subtract to get to 14? Can we add and subtract 1 and 48 to get to 14? Well, 48 plus 1 is 49. If we subtract it, it's 47. Not going to happen. 24 and 2 and 24. Can we add or subtract those two numbers to get 14? No. 3 and 16. Well, it's close to 14, but it's 2 away. We would have to have a 2 and a 16, not a 3 and a 16. We could get to 13 or we could get to 19, but we couldn't get to 14 with 3 and 16. So that's not it. 4 and 12. Well, can't get to 14. Almost there, but not quite. We would only be able to get to 8 and 16. 5 and 9.6. Well, there's no decimal on this 14, so that doesn't make sense. And then we have 6 and 8. Well, can we add 6 plus 8 to get to 14? Yes, we can. So those are the magic numbers that we're going to be working with. So now that we have our magic numbers, we're going to be using those magic numbers to determine if we need to make any of them negative or not. So we want 6 plus 8 to give us our B, which is negative 14. And we want 6 times 8 to give us our C, which is 48. Well, does positive 6 plus positive 8 give us negative 14? No. So we're going to have to come in here and make at least one of them negative. So if we make 6 negative, does that give us negative 14? No. If we make the 8 also negative, does that make it negative 14? Yes. Because both of them are negative, it stays negative 14. So if the addition needs to be negative, then multiplication needs to be negative. We have negative times a negative, which is a positive, and 6 times 8 gives us 48. So our magic numbers are negative 8 and negative 6. So that means factored form, we have x minus 6 times x minus 8. And that is going to be our factored form. So on the coloring sheet that I did this from, you had to choose a number and choose a color. So this should be number 6 and dark blue. So let's do one more. So let's say we had x squared, y equals x squared plus 3x minus 40. Well, our a, our imaginary a, is 1. If there's nothing there, it's 1. Our b is 3, and our c is negative 40. So we're going to go straight to our big X method, which we have our b over here, our c over there. So our b comes over here, our c is negative 40. We're going to create a t-table. So the smallest number that can go into 40 is 1. So 40 divided by 1 gives us 40. We can go down for a while, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so on and so forth. So 40 divided by 2 gives me 20. 40 divided by 3 gives me a decimal. I can include it or I cannot. It does not matter. Either way, I know for a fact it will not be one of my answers because neither my B nor my C has a decimal. So like adding or subtracting 3 and 13.33333, it's not going to give me 3, so I know it's not the answer. 40 divided by 4 gives me 10. 40 divided by 5 gives me 8. So on and so forth. I know I can stop here. Nope, hold up, I can't stop there. A few more. 40 divided by 6 gives me 6.6 repeating. 40 divided by 7 gives me 5.7, and then 40 divided by 8 gives me 5. So I know for a fact here is the same thing that I had up here, so I can stop. Alright, so I'm going to go through these and figure out which ones I can mark out. Again, I'm looking for 2 numbers that add or subtract to get me 3, or B. So with 1 and 40, can I add or subtract those 2 numbers to get to 3? No. Can I add or subtract 2 and 20 to get to 3? No. Can I add or subtract 3 and 13.33333 to get 3? No. Can I do it with 4 and 10? No. Can I do it with 5 and 8? Yes. There's 3 numbers or 3 place values in between 5 and 8. So our magic numbers are 5 and 8. And we've got to ask ourselves, 5 plus 8, and we want to get to 3. We want 5 times 8 to get to negative 40. Well, hopefully you can tell right off the bat that the multiplication doesn't work right now. We got to change it somehow, some way, because positive times a positive is not going to give you a negative. The addition is going to tell you what needs to be negative. So we need to end up with a positive 3. Well, if we make the 8 negative, 5 plus negative 8, well, that's not going to give us positive 3, is it? No, because 8 is the bigger number. So we need the bigger number to be positive to end up with a positive number with addition. So we're actually going to try to get the 5 negative. So negative 5 plus 8 makes sense. If it helped you, you can rewrite it. 8 minus 5 does give us positive 3. So if the 5's negative in the addition, 5's negative in the multiplication, negative 5 times positive 8 does give us negative 40. So our magic numbers are negative 5 and positive 8. We're going to have 2 sets of parentheses. Our x minus 5. Again, it's subtraction because it's negative in our big X. And x plus 8. Again, it's addition because our magic number is positive. So if you're following along with the coloring sheet, the number should be 11 and the color is red. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to contact me and reach out to me.